Bionicle is back, baby! Since the time before time, or at least as far back as I can check before the great BZPower purge of 2013, fans have speculated on what Bionicle characters would look like in minifigure form. And I'm not talking about those things, I mean real, actual minifigures. How many specialized molds would they need? Would the Greebling be molded or printed? If it's printed, how much detail could they realistically add to it? How would they do the Kanohi masks? And so on and so forth. Y'all remember TTV's Brickonicle pitch? I'd still be down for that, I'm not gonna lie. Of course, we must wonder no longer, because just in time for Bionicle's 25th anniversary, LEGO answered the question themselves with LEGO Minifigures set number 71052, Series 29 Bionicle Cosplayer, aka Tahu. And oh my god, this thing is beautiful. Starting off, the sculpt work is... well, it's a minifigure. The same round edges and sharp angles, the same simplistic design that fits the classic LEGO system so perfectly, and the same endearingly cartoony yet agonizingly unbalanced proportions that make designing mocks at minifigure scale actual hell. The real focus is on the non-standard pieces. Starting with the shoulder pads, it's a part that's shown up plenty of times before, used here to emulate the original Mata shoulders, and it works fine, but honestly a tad pointy compared to the real deal. We'll get to the other things they could have done later, but as is, it works well enough. Of course, the real star of the show is that Kanohi How. The masks in particular have always been one of the biggest sticking points when talking about System Bionicle, and it was a huge question of what they'd actually do for this. They could have used that smooth 2017 Iron Man helmet we've seen in so many fan designs, or given that the leak specified it was a Bionicle cosplayer, they could have just done a paper mask printed onto a regular minifigure head a la Spy TF2, but instead they chose to actually properly downsize the original How mold. And this is definitely the best case scenario, right? This is just a normal How, and it looks great. Of course, it's not a one-to-one recreation, they've made a lot of minor tweaks to make it work all the better at this scale. For a start, the proportions have been adjusted to better fit a minifigure, with the eyes being made the tiniest bit smaller, while the mask overall is just a hair shorter. I also love that they've made it look just slightly more angular, just a few creases here and there to make it fit in more with the blocky aesthetic of the classic LEGO system. And at this scale, those areas around the cheek vents would have been super fragile, so they just filled them in. Instead of having those holes go all the way through like on the original, the cheek and forehead vents are only recessed to imply those holes, making the entire thing way more structurally sound. Part of me does wish they'd been printed or dual molded in black to match the way negative space is handled on the torso, but that's a minor nitpick, right? Because as a whole, this thing is stunning. It's perfect. This is it, man. It's Tahu's actual How, brought back from the dead in the year of our great spirit, 2026. It's insane. It's beautiful. It does not get any better than this. Of course, the detail doesn't stop at just the mask. They've gone all out with the printing to make this thing as faithful to the original Tahu Mata as humanly... I guess is biomechanically possible? It's amazing just how much of the original torso design they managed to capture here, in large part because of how they chose to stylize it, using a lot of thick line work and silhouettes to emulate those elements instead of trying to capture every bit of greebling possible. Minifigures are small, add too much detail, and it can look like an over-designed mess. It's amazing just how well they simplified this thing without losing any of the important parts of the design, like the gear function in the neck, or the Technic ball, or the vents and pistons. It's all here. I love how they use different colors of printing to indicate different things, with dark red being used to indicate detail within the torso, while black is used on the sides to imply negative space. It's simple, but it works wonders. And turning it around back keeps that going, with the same level of detailing, and of course, that gear. Part of me almost wishes they'd used a neck bracket or something to make it three-dimensional, but when the printing itself is so perfect, yeah, I've got no complaints. Legs are pretty much the same deal. It's amazing how effortless they make this downscaling seem. For example, there's not enough space on a minifigure leg for the whole hip piece, so instead they just do the bottom end of the socket and it works amazingly. Same with the knee assembly. That's a pretty involved part of the original mold, but somehow a rectangle and two ovals managed to recreate it spot on. And the printing on the feet recreates the hollowness of the originals brilliantly. My only real nitpick, and it is a nitpick, is what didn't get printed. Getting nothing on the arms feels a bit lame. It would have been so cool seeing how they handled the asymmetry of the original arm pieces, and the sheer lack of any detailing kind of makes them stick out from the rest of the design. Apparently the designers left them out because they couldn't figure out how to translate those details in a way that looked good, but dude, if I can pull it off even kinda decently, I feel like you could have done something. Even if it wasn't perfectly accurate, it certainly would have been a better solution than blank arms and pointy shoulder pads. Even still though, this thing is so close to perfection. To be fair, it could have just been the mask on a blank red body and I still would have thought it was great, but oh my god, do I love it. This is such a fantastic recreation of Tahu. They absolutely did my boy justice and it makes me so happy. And of course, as good as he looks just standing there, you can make him look even cooler with some articulation. He has a swivel at the head, the grip on the neck is a little bit tighter than the one on the mask, so it does tend to slip a bit, but the back of the head being open definitely helps in that regard. Rotation of the shoulder, which is blocked by the shoulder pads, but still has some pretty solid range. Wrist swivel, and each of the legs can move up and back pretty far. Frankly, this is an embarrassing level of articulation. I mean, come on, no up or down at the neck? No ab crunch? I mean, even the original Tahu Mata at least had an ankle pivot. Jokes aside, though, obviously there's no surprises here, but like, it's a minifigure. That's hardly a bad thing. It has just enough articulation to fit in with the scale and style of Lego, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And of course, you can pose him even better with some accessories. Starting off, as with all collectible minifigures, he comes with a stand. Cool. Obviously, the real star of the show is that fire sword, and hell yeah. He looks so good with this thing, dude. Like, he's finally complete now that he has it. The red lightsaber hilt is a shockingly good fit for the hilt on his original sword, but the fire for the blade, I mean, kinda. Like, the mold itself is perfect for this, but the issue is the color. The fact that it's trans orange makes it feel less like an actual blade and more like he's holding a portable flamethrower or a big torch or something. If it had just been opaque red, it would have looked so much more like the real thing. Except, it's kind of not that easy. LEGO's tolerances are extremely tight, more so than any other toy company out there. If the connection points on these molds are off by 0.01 millimeters, LEGO straight up rejects the piece. The issue is that, as I understand it, the combination of plastics and dyes used for translucent pieces cools slightly differently from the opaque ABS plastic used for most parts, meaning the molds made specifically for clear plastic, like the fire pieces, have their tolerances fine-tuned differently than normal. They do the same thing with bricks and plates and stuff. The clear colors almost always get their own retooled version of a mold. If they just tried to inject solid red into the same mold, it would shrink differently during the cooling process and could be outside LEGO's 10 micron threshold, which means that in order to use this part in opaque red, they'd have had to spend a ton of time and money testing the tolerances just to use it for this one specific instance. It's a bummer, I'm still not thrilled with the outcome, but at least understanding why this is an issue helps me accept it. Now, if we want to talk about a truly flawless accessory, we need look no further than the Tohu canister. The way they managed to scale down the original 2001 packaging, keeping all the essential details is brilliant. It looks so rad, dude. I'm just blown away by how good this thing is. Like, I know that tiny version of real life object is sort of LEGO's whole thing, but there's something so novel about it being this. It's perfect. And that's kind of the word for this whole set, honestly. I mean, sure, it's not technically perfect in the sense that there are minor nitpicky flaws, but as a whole package, immaculate. Breathtaking. This is Bionicle perfection scaled down to classic LEGO size, and I love it. Everything about this, from the accessories to the mask to the detailing, is absolutely... What's that? Wait, no, is that a bandana? What's that doing here? No, please, wait, no! Removing the mask reveals that this is, of course, not Tahu. Never was. They only ever called it Bionicle Cosplayer, and this is why. Instead of the original Mata head most of us probably expected, it's a normal minifigure guy in a grey balaclava wearing a pink bandana. Credit where it's due, using the bandana for the eye sorta like older Batman minifigures is really clever, and the face print itself is pretty fun, but it raises one of the biggest criticisms I've seen about this thing. Why did they insist on making him just a cosplayer instead of actual Tohu Tahu? I mean, whenever they've done homages to other themes like Castle or Classic Space or even Ninjago in this exact same wave, it's always just been the actual version of those characters. So why does Tahu get relegated to cosplayer status? Well, it turns out that comparison to other themes is actually a big part of why they did it this way in the first place. In interviews during the reveal of this series, designers Essa Nusiainen and Tor Harmark Alexander Anderson talked about how they've wanted to do some sort of cosplayer for years, but their attempts always wound up just sort of looking like the thing it was supposed to be a cosplay of. How do you differentiate between a minifigure of an actual knight and a minifigure dressed up in knight cosplay? At the same time, they'd also apparently spent ages trying to figure out how to bring Bionicle into the line, but felt like they couldn't faithfully translate the proportions or detail into minifigure form without doing it a disservice. This gave them the opportunity to finally do both. In their eyes, it being a typical minifigure was on its own enough to distinguish it from the real Tahu Mata. Personally, I'm not sure I entirely agree with that conclusion. I think they did such an amazing job translating everything into minifigure form that it absolutely still reads as regular Tahu, even if not in the exact same proportions. I feel like they still could have branded this as a normal Bionicle character and everyone would have accepted it just fine. But at the same time, I think there's an even better reason that this thing works. If you look up LEGO Space Cosplay or LEGO Castle Cosplay, you'll get a few results for sure. A handful of very creative people branching outside the medium of LEGO to pay homage to something that they really care about. But the reality is that, at the end of the day, themes like castle, space, adventurers, and so on are LEGO themes first and foremost. That's not just a thing we call sub-franchises within LEGO, it's a literal term. These are themings used to build sets around, and as a result, the vast majority of fans of those themes are inspired creatively by LEGO builds, by the ability to create their own things in the medium within those same themed parameters. But Bionicle is a whole different beast. The way fans see it, Bionicle is to LEGO what Transformers is to Hasbro. Half of them don't even care about the parent company, many of them don't even have an interest in the toys, we love the story and the characters and the world building. It's a legend, a chronicle, which is why it should be no surprise that when you look up Bionicle Cosplayer, you don't just get a few results. Tahu Mata, Takanuva, Kapaka Mata, Vezon, Jaller, Galimata, Mata Nui, Tahu Nuva, Liwa Mata, Tahu Master, Pahatsu Mata, freaking Mini Tahu! And it doesn't stop there. People have built entire gigs around creating life-sized Kanohi masks and Toa tools for cosplay. There are entire forum threads dedicated to sharing tips and tricks for dressing up as these characters. This minifigure isn't some arbitrary cosplayer doubling as a cheeky reference to an arbitrary theme, this minifigure is us. It's the fans that even 16 years after the series ended, 25 years since it first began, are still making insanely cool stuff based on the series we all love. It's the designers of this wave, Essa and Tor, saying, hey, we see you. It's not like they drew the word cosplayer out of a hat, they wanted to do it likely because they recognized the artistry and passion that goes into the craft and wanted to celebrate it. And they obviously have a lot of love and reverence for Bionicle to the point that their dedication to getting it right led to this specific end result. They clearly know and care about how much this series means to people, clearly love how cosplayers can take the things that inspire them and make amazing art based on it. After all, these two are artists and LEGO fans themselves. Of course they'd recognize others in the same boat. Like with the GWP and even Mini Tahu, this is a love letter to the people that keep the series alive. It's them saying, keep going, you're doing such cool stuff. And I'm gonna be honest, I genuinely kind of teared up when that clicked for me. Would it have been cool of them to just do a normal Tahu minifigure with a head based on the original design? Of course. But to me, this says so much more than that would've. Now, the sentiment is slightly muddled by the involvement of LEGO as a corporation. LEGO does not see Bionicle the way fans do. They see it like any other LEGO theme, a framework to build sets around for as long as it's popular, and the second it stops being popular, they move on. LEGO as a company does not care about Bionicle anymore. And this wonderful send-up of the fans is made all the worse by the fact that this released almost exactly a year after LEGO shut down Masks of Power, one of the most incredible fan creations I've ever seen, and one of the series' best send-ups. It stings going from, hey, we see you, to remembering that just a year ago they said, our lawyers see you, stop that. I don't know, at the end of the day, does it matter more that the faceless corporation doesn't care about the series you love or its fans? Or does it matter that the artists within that company are trying as hard as they can to celebrate them? For me, personally, I want to stick to the positive. Because for now, for this one shining moment, just in time for Bionicle's 25th anniversary, someone sees us again. And that means more than they could know.